Welcome to Falling into Balance Seasonal Strategies for Black Women's Wellness, Family, and Career. I am so pumped today because we're going to have a great panel discussion. I have three amazing women that are going to be coming on to speak to you live. So, this is a great opportunity, whether you're watching this live or the replay. I'm always a girl that loves my notebook, so grab your notebook. Hey, we have one of the ladies here right as we speak. So, grab your notebook. Grab yourself a pen and feel free to join us. So I'm just adding Daniella as I see her come in. So hopefully we did that right. So like I said, we're going to have a great conversation. So I cannot wait to have you. So I think you should be able to request to go live with me. You know what? I think I added you as a moderator. So here I am. So let me make sure I invited you live to join me. And then once she comes up, we're going to have two more amazing people join us live. So this is a great time to make sure that you invite your friends, invite your family, invite your cousins and them. Hey, Marie, I see Marie's there as well. So I'm also going to invite you as well to speak. Let me make sure, invite to join. So we have one more person that's going to be joining us. That's going to be Stephanie. But like I said, this is going to be a great conversation, whether you're watching this live or the recording. So, hey, Marie, how you doing, girl?
Good. How are you?
Good. I see Yeti Studios in here. Gonna send you a wave as well. Yes, I'm very excited for this conversation. Basse. So we're about to get started, but we want to make sure we get all our panelists in here. So this is a great time to share this conversation with your friends, with your family and them, with anyone that you know is going to be served by it, because we're going to be diving into wellness strategies. For those of you who have been part of our community for the last 4 weeks, we've been talking about mental health, nutritional health, physical health, financial health, because that's important too. And now we're going to be diving and bringing that all together in this panel. So I wanted to make sure I brought four amazing humans who have their own perspectives, their own experiences, and are able to share it with you. Because what I was noticing is that we don't necessarily have this in a space. Hey there, we have Pride. Happy to see you as well. We don't always have these conversations in spaces. They're very much focused on specific goals, but they don't talk about the journey to get there. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we had that opportunity. So, oh, Danielle, I invited you. So let me know if you have any issues joining, because I've invited you to speak, but you should be able to also request as well. And then we also have Stephanie that's going to be joining us. So hold on just a minute. Let me see if I can actually search for Stephanie. And then I know, Marie, I know I said I was going to wait till everyone gets
Okay.
up here to introduce themselves, but I might actually
You're like, let's
invite you. I might invite you
go.
to do it early, but
Do
let me
it
just see.
early.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just see if I can invite Stephanie. So I'm not here multitasking looking crazy. But yes, Marie, since you're already up here, feel
Yeah,
free to introduce yourself. Like, yes.
sure. This is the quick one. Welcome to fall. I feel like we kind of match. We kind of match a little
We
bit.
do.
So I'm excited to be here. It's always the perfect time to talk about wellness, as you know, right?
Yes.
And so I am, I already said my name. So I'm a wellness coach. I'm an author. I primarily focus on stress. And I always say to people, whoever you are, business person, all I want to do is to help you reduce stress. All right, we have plus one.
Yes.
One more. Woo.
There she is. That's my girl, Stephanie.
It's getting full. It's getting full.
Hi.
So that's, yeah, I love it. I'm loving it. I'm like, we need to swap. so, so that's the key thing for me, because I think at the core, everything, stress is like the biggest thing. And so I've literally pivoted my work where sometimes we talk about self-care and I'm just like, you know what? The problem is stress, right? And it's at the
Yes.
bottom of like I don't care who you are, we could be smiling, there's something stressing you out, and I want to be that person that help you reduce it or just get rid of it, or do things that help you just literally just hoosah and calm yourself and just be grounded, whatever's going on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, for Marie, for introducing yourself. Why can't I speak tonight? It's okay. I'm just so excited. And the funny part is, this is a side note. We did not coordinate colors, but the fact that we all matched, I'm just loving it. So anyone, make sure y'all take some screenshots because we looking cute. But Stephanie, since you jumped in second, I would love for you to introduce yourself as well to the community. Let us know who you are. They're all amazing women, so I wanted to give them opportunity to introduce themselves because y'all about to get some goodness here.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I'm
Yes.
about stress. I'm trying to find my ear. okay? And I could not find them. So and then I couldn't even find my string ones. So let's say I was about space. So that is, but hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Campbell. I go by Steph. I'm a public health enthusiasm person. Right now, I'm really interested in health equity, particularly supporting Black moms in the postpartum period. I'm really elevating what our narrative looks like. Um, I'm a new mom of two. That's a new title for me. And because this work is so important to me, I am on this live. I'm actually still on leave for a little while. That's another thing. I will probably talk a little bit about. Let's see. I think that's it for now. And I'm enjoying that it's not quite cold yet. So I know we got chill here in Massachusetts for a little bit, but it's going to warm back up.
Yes. And I also wanted to say that thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining us during a maternity leave. Because I was thinking that too. I was like, I'm planning this, and this is like her actual maternity leave. So when you said yes, I was like, thank the Lord she said yes. Because she could be like, girl, I'm being with my baby.
I
But that's
I
part
am
of it.
learning the things that I want to do. That is what I'm
Yes.
learning.
Yes. And that's why I wanted to definitely have you in this conversation because I think that's a great example of like what balance can look like and what you're going to say no to and what you're going to say yes to, right? So
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much, Steph, for joining us. And Daniella, I cannot wait to have you
Hi,
introduce
can you hear
yourself.
me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, great, great. So I am Daniella Fairbaim, and I am the principal of Be Insanely Great. So I help hardworking women have the tools they need to get their dream job. So I help them ace the interview and get the call back so they can live the lifestyle that they have always dreamed of. And so by day, I work in healthcare. And so this is truly my passion, being an interview coach.
Yes, thank you so much, Daniela, for introducing yourself. I'm so excited. We're going to jump in. For anyone that is here with us live, we are here to answer your questions as well. I do have some questions that I'm going to ask the panel that I sent them ahead of time, just full disclosure, just so we can like have a little bit of conversation to go. But feel free to use the Q&A box. Feel free to use the chat if you have questions that come up. Because like I said, one of the first things I wanted to talk about was mental health. Because mental health, specifically when it comes to Black women, is a conversation that's not always had. And it can be very frustrating with Black women feeling the need to be resilient
Mm-mm.
in spaces where there's so much trauma happening. And it's like, how do I balance being resilient,
Yeah.
doing my job, taking care of my family, caring about my own wellness, while at the same time, there's a whole bunch of craziness that's happening around the world. So that said, actually, I'm going to give Marie you first the question of how have you protected and prioritized your mental
Mm.
health while juggling family and career responsibilities? I know, a
Mm.
loaded
And
question,
more, and more. The list is always longer than it sounds. It's interesting you mentioned being on leave. It's this season I always talk about like self-care looks so different depending on where you are in
Mhm.
life. And so, there was a time when it's like, oh, let me do this, let me take time out. And I'm literally learning now to take breaks, right? So similar to the last time I actually took a leave was also to become a mom, right? And then I always thought that's what it's associated with. And then recently I was dealing with some health issues and I had to really think hard to take time out because usually I'll just go do what I need to get done and come back like nothing happened, right? Even if the doctor's like, do you need some time? And I'll always, this year, I think is the first time, like in the last year, where I literally took a leave. And it's like, for me, right? There was no new life coming out. It was just me who needed to be like, I needed to reset my own life and prioritize my health. And so it was literally saying yes to me and not thinking about, oh my God, so much work is going to be done and not waiting until things completely fall apart or
Mhm.
somebody else was sick or somebody else needed me because we're always the first in line to be the caregiver. And guess who has to take care of yourself when you out? It's usually going to end up being you. And so for me, it looks different. This was the balance in terms of I needed to reset, recharge, and making sure that I'm the one going to the doctor and going to the appointments that I needed to, because typically I would just be like, let's do it during vacation or during the holidays and all that kind of stuff. So this season, self-care looks like literally it's like going to PT, acupuncture, going to my follow-up, even though most of the time I don't want to go because it's exhausting just seeing all these different doctors and being asked the same questions and people not remembering and that kind of stuff. And so just knowing and reminding myself that I was worthy of taking that time without completely having something that was like super life threatening. But it is, because if I didn't take care of it now, it will become something bigger, right? And so, and just reminding myself, like, stop waiting for like tomorrow, and then it become like something way bigger that I could have been taking care of gradually, like right now. And so now that's what balance, self-care, and prioritizing me looks like in this season.
Thank you so much, Marie. I think that like I was taking notes. So if y'all see me looking down, I'm a note taker. Like I said, I always have my notebook and a pen. But one of the things I love that you talked about was like prioritizing yourself in this season, how it looks differently, because so many people don't think about that. It's always going to be different depending on the season. So I'm going to point the question back to you as well, Stephanie, to ask that question. So Steph, I can, and also at any point, if you need me to re-say the question, feel free.
I have my questions to my right on my other screen.
Oh, yes.
So that I can keep up.
You ready?
I think that this is a really important question, and I appreciate you saying it does look different in different seasons. And so I think for me this season, one of the key things that I have done for my mental health is get a perinatal therapist. And so in the past, I've worked with a therapist, even after I had my first son, but their specialty wasn't around perinatal. And so I've noticed just this journey that feels very different as I'm navigating what this balance looks like. I think the other thing that I've done that makes me really happy is I schedule dates for myself. And so a date for myself really means it's a date for me. So sometimes it's going to a bookstore. Sometimes it's, just taking a walk. And I was the other two, oh, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but this is a part of my mental health. I really love Girl Trek. And so listening to them talk on their podcast, the encouragement of knowing like other Black women are trying to walk for themselves, like that has been a huge piece. And then I think in terms of protecting and prioritizing myself, it's my family. Like I couldn't even do this right now. My sister didn't come over, or and so I've been really leaning on that and learning how to ask for help. And I think that was something that took me a long time to learn how to really do, because as you said earlier, that like oftentimes we are struggling. We are the one who might show up for everyone else, but really practicing saying, I need help doing X, and what it looks like. Because sometimes people offer help, but that's not the help you're looking for.
Right.
And so just even that practice and that vulnerability, I think has been a real growth moment for me.
Oh, that is so good, Steph. I love so much of what you said, especially when you said at the end of the day, like planning those dates with yourself. So many people forget about sometimes it's okay for you to date yourself, for have those moments. And I wanted to highlight Michelle, that's the grief curator, said, I didn't know there were perinatal therapists. That's fantastic. So that's why I wanted to bring these ladies on, y'all, because I said they all have different experiences and they are going to share things that we may have never heard about, never thought about. And now you can say to yourself, when I get pregnant and I have my child, let me get a perinatal therapist. Let me have dates with myself. Like something else that Marie was sharing, like let me actually make sure I take that time to look out for what my needs are. So that said, I want to pivot over to Daniella to answer the question as well.
Sure. So I want you to reiterate the question, please, Tomesha.
Absolutely. So how have you protected and prioritized your mental health while juggling family and career responsibilities?
I'm definitely a work in progress, hands down. I don't think I found the perfect recipe just yet, but what I would say is therapy, right? So having my psychotherapist weekly session, also doing what I love. When I thought about the self-discovery journey I took recently and what was the happiest time of my life, it was definitely my college years, which was over 20 years ago. And what made it a beautiful experience for me was dancing. I love to dance. I was part of a couple of dance troupes, and so I made it a point to look for a Black woman-owned dance group, and they have adult classes. So I started taking the adult classes once a week, and it was dancercise. So one of the exercise and dance, it was just like a perfect combination. So with my psychotherapy once a week, with dancing once a week, and just making sure I'm taking a walk, right? I don't have to run, I can just walk and just moving my body. So that's all part of the process. I know that we're human, we're not perfect, and so it'll take time to figure out what needs to be done because no two people are the same, and you'll hear different things from different people. And it's also about establishing boundaries. I am not the poster child, right? When it comes to boundaries. But I also
Neither
know that
me.
there are people who I work with and people who I am friends with who establish those boundaries. And it was me learning and understanding. So for me, boundaries, like, what do you mean boundaries, right? Like, but it's just saying, nope, I'm leaving work today at this time, right? So my team
Mm-hmm.
knows that on Wednesdays I have dance class. I need to leave the building by a certain time. I let it be known. I remind them. I have that conversation with them so they understand. And I know that I won't go to a certain place in the building at a certain time because I get stuck. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
it's knowing that these are my boundaries, these particular days of the week, and just also knowing that you can't always say yes to everything,
Right.
right? You're going to
Yeah.
burn out. And the biggest takeaway I had in this wellness journey is that I may have a capacity to do certain things. It doesn't mean that someone else who may have a different capacity is any lesser than or any better than. So it's understanding
Mm.
that boundaries are different for different people. Everyone has a different capacity,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yes.
also knowing that do what you love, and that's part of wellness. Is moving your body, is being happy, all that into one is what makes it a wellness journey, you know?
Ooh, that's
So
so
much. You
good.
be like, whoo, the note taking. I'm like, I'm gonna take
Right? You know what
notes. Yeah, I
I mean?
was
I
like,
know people,
Right,
I wanted to add
hands
one
are
right.
thing
moving.
Steph
Yeah.
said about asking for help. That was another thing where it's like, to
Yes.
promote this, I play Superwoman by Alicia Keys. And it's one of those things where I'm like, you can still be Superwoman and allow yourself to get help, right? And so when I was
Yes.
out, usually friends would be like, can I bring you something? And I'm, oh no, I'm good. I don't
Yeah.
need nothing. And so I literally was like, I had to think about it. I had a friend there. I'm like, okay, should I let her bring me? And then so I had a friend who bought me groceries, who bought me some medicine. And all I had to do was, the most I could do was go down. I can't really do too much.
Yeah.
And usually I would be like, I'm okay, I'm fine. I'll just take care of it. And then to me, it's also allowing others to care for me, right? So we naturally caretakers and
Yes.
we just do,
Mhm.
right? People don't even have to ask us. I'm one of those people, I anticipate people's needs and I'll just take care of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Versus it's rare that people will just start doing, right? So they assume you're always okay because you said you're okay,
Yeah.
right? And I think
Right.
sometimes like the people who are always strong, always doing, always there, that I feel like I encourage other people to be like, even if they don't say it,
Mhm.
I think we the line, especially as
Yeah.
women. I'm just like, even if she's like, I'm good, I'm like, I'm coming over. Okay, we're not
Yeah.
having this. I'm
Yes.
coming
Yeah.
over. I'm bringing some snacks. I'm bringing stuff that I know you like. And she went and I give her. She's like, give me a list and I'll get you stuff. And then she just added a bunch of things she would think I would need to eat during that time, right? And so just letting somebody, just literally allowing yourself to be cared for is like such a lesson because
Mhm.
I'm like, I can do it even if I'm limping to the grocery store. I'm gonna go and do it myself. When it's like, you wouldn't do that for somebody else. So it's almost like treat
Yes.
myself as a friend, treat myself as the child or the other person that I care for,
Mhm.
that I would care for the same way. So that
Yes.
was a big one, and I'm hoping others would allow that to happen, especially as women. Especially
Yes.
just let yourself be loved and cared for when you're in need.
Yeah, that
Great.
is such goodness. Oh my goodness, that was so good. I loved everything that y'all was saying. And anyone that just jumped in, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in a Q&A box. We're going to make sure we leave time for questions at the end. But if there's a question you have about something specific that we just talked about, feel free to drop it in because we can pause. Let's see. The Michelle from the Grief Creator said, "Love that. Allowing ourselves to be cared for. I crave that, yet often feel like I'm being lazy and so used to doing it on my own." We're going to actually take a pause. And I don't know if anybody wants to answer that question because I think that's a great, like, this is a good point to, I don't want to wait to answer that, but does anyone have any insights about that feeling of I'm being lazy if I ask for help?
I think that's a natural feeling for us as women.
Mm,
When I saw that comment, right away I thought
yeah.
vulnerability. It's
Mm.
okay to be vulnerable. It's
Yeah.
okay to not be the woman with the cape. You don't have to be Superwoman all the time. Someone else can take that cape from time to time. And
Yes.
it's something that we oftentimes battle. There's this term called productivity guilt, right?
Mm,
So when you're in the
mm,
workplace, you are elevating, going to different roles, maybe
yes.
leadership, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in this role now, I'm getting paid this amount of money. I should be doing more. No, it's about working smarter, not harder.
Uh-huh.
So it is caring for yourself. You're doing that differently now instead of caring for
Yes.
others. But it's also about things in perspective and just knowing that it's okay to be vulnerable for the moment. It's not forever. It's for the moment.
Mm.
Because you too need love.
Mm,
You too need to get the
mm,
water blossom,
yeah.
right? So who's watering you
Yes.
as a plant? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
that's hard. I think
Yeah.
for me, it's like when we look back and see who raised us,
Hmm.
I've never seen, I feel like I'm always, one of the self-care thing is just like the doing, right?
Right.
And for
Yes.
me, I'm in a state of just being. And one of my favorite line in the Eat, Pray, Love movie was like the art of doing nothing in every language. Just because you're just
Yeah.
relaxing or sitting there or
Yes.
resting does not make you lazy. I think we are one of the
Right.
hardest working, even in our sleep. I think we're working because
Yeah.
your mind is still
Yeah.
Yes.
going. So for you to take that time and schedule that time and knowing you are worthy of rest, of
Hmm.
recharge,
Yes.
and to know that has nothing to do with laziness. Because I'm like, we could take a break
Yes.
for a year, and I'm telling you, we already worked for a lifetime. A
Yes.
lifetime. Okay. That's like one person,
Yes.
one black woman, one woman, right? And so when you take a break and you just sit down somewhere, like there's some
Mm.
people like they're like, what should I do for self-care? Go sit somewhere, go lay somewhere, go like close
Yes.
your eyes for 10 minutes,
Go
right? And
sit
that's enough.
down.
Go sit down.
Go sit, go eat. See, this is why I told y'all I put this panel together. When I said this, I was not like joking. And I even had told them, I was like, we probably will get to maybe 3 questions because it's going to be that rich of a
Right.
conversation. So feel free if there's something that resonates with y'all in the
Mhm.
comment, like drop a comment, let us know. We are here to serve. We are here to, but we only here to like 7:45 because I did promise them. I was like, we ain't gonna be here
Yeah.
all night.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna push ahead to the next
You never know.
question, but feel
You never know.
free. Exactly. I know.
I,
I said maybe we might go over like half a minute, but we ain't gonna be here all
Yeah.
day. We
one,
here for a good
two,
time, not a long time. You have something,
one.
Steph? Yes.
I
Yes, Steph.
your point, rest is so important. And so one of the tools that I use and that I want to offer up too is Trisha Hersey's work around rest is
Yeah.
resistance.
Ooh,
Like it's very
yes.
hard to embrace that. And her IG profile is great. She has affirmation cards. It's a
Mm-hmm.
good like really need to lean into that. And you also mentioned something that's so important. I think about when I grew up. I grew up in a strong Black matriarch family. I never saw anybody resting. And so
Mm.
part of the guilt also comes from thinking about who did you see resting,
Mm-hmm.
and because you all said everything else, but I'm telling you, it's worth the read. It's worth even trying to practice, and it's really hard because all type of stuff come up when you're trying to rest. Like, dang, should I really take this nap? Should I not do anything? Like we deserve rest.
Yes.
Like we're working in our sleep, and a prime example of that is like, when's the last time you had a really good dream?
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm.
work, not a dream about the horrible thing that was going to happen. So I just want to offer that up.
Yes, and I see it. I am Consuela G said the rest deck is
Yeah.
so helpful. And then Les be fine. I know. Sorry if I jacked it up. You know, I'm be trying to read. I, take it on my eyes, not my heart. Such an important point, Stephanie. You know, it's just my eyes, I swear. But I will ask the next question, and it's totally fine. Like I said, if we don't get through all 5 questions, it's totally fine. We are here to serve. So I wanted to, we touched a little bit upon nutritional health. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that's so interesting whenever this conversation comes up is so many people think about outside of the Black community, think about it from a standpoint of macronutrient, micronutrients, but like we're Black, so we think about it from nourishment from the inside out. We think about those cultural foods that are important to us. So my question to all of you, and feel free if you do or don't want to answer this one, is how have you incorporated seasonal foods into your diet to enhance your physical energy? But this can also be in general incorporating cultural foods, you know, because we have seasonal foods
Yeah.
that are part of our cultures.
Right.
So Marie, do you want to
Oh,
kick this one off?
oh, we're doing it. Okay. This is the round robin.
Okay.
I
You're like, no.
It could go in so many directions. You know,
Yes.
one of the things I've done where people think like they get that and they think food and they think
Mm-hmm.
eat this, don't eat that, right? And I've purposely shown people where sometime, and I always tell them when I'm in pain, all nutrition is out. Like I think we all know what we're supposed to do. We technically don't even,
Yes.
unless you have a particular condition that requires a specialist, you know what you should be doing, right? But there are days where I'm like, so much is going on where it's like I have to think differently about like where do we go? And again, we go back to the beginning. Where do you go for comfort? It's gonna be sweet and salt, okay? But you know, during that period of time, I'm like, you cannot make me feel guilty. I need to soothe myself, and there are times it's gonna be the dessert. And then you go back to the other. And so when I think of seasonal food, I've been going back to more how I was raised, right? When I think of my Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
mom, aunt, mom, and and you change your ways as you get older, thinking like, oh, let me eat this version, right? And so I'm starting to go back and see, what did I grow up with that was like, naturally your food was medicine, not a topic for a medical conference. Food was medicine. Okay, like they didn't invent it. I see so many things now where people are just like farm to table, all this nonsense, where I'm just like, we grew up where you're like, I know where this tomato came from, I know where the mango tree is. So I'm like, why are we talking about farm to table? Where else could it come from, right? And so going back, even in the summer, right now it's fall, it's like, you know, mangoes, and really thinking of like stuff that you naturally will be in your environment where you don't think about doing. And I think as fall is coming, it's more like the soup and the stew, and really adding rich vegetables. Like I still eat plantain, boil, or like really rich hearty things with good spices. You know, I went back to turmeric and ginger and curry and, you know, cayenne pepper, and like so many different things where it's like, if we literally go back to our roots and learn. And sometimes people think, oh, we're going back to the old days. I'm like, no, it's like the natural way. It's like the way we were born and raised to eat, but we let that go because we're busy. We think all that stuff is going to take so much time, versus like, how do we make it like a natural way where certain things are always available when you need it. And the one thing I went back to in terms of hydration is coconut water. Now I had to readjust
Yes.
because I didn't grow up with coconut water in a can, but there's no coconut
Mm-hmm.
water here. So it's like, but it's still good to find a good one, knowing this is a nice way to hydrate versus like soda or juices and that kind of stuff. And so I think if you go back and seeing like, and I always go back to like other people in our family, like the grandparents, where they're making like legumes and certain things and mixed vegetables, and it
Mm-hmm.
tastes great. When you think of, you know, I feel bad for people who only eat like, who are not meat eaters, right? Because you go and it's like lettuce and pieces of carrot. I'm like, no, there's so much more richness and you know, like in things that are based on vegetables, versus like people always see only being a vegetarian as almost like a torture, where you're like, what am I gonna eat? There's no
Mm.
taste. Where I'm like, there are some places where you go, I'm telling you, the food is so well done, and the spices and what you're making in it. And you probably already know this, Tomesha, where the last thing for me, even though we live in the city, was learning how do I grow certain things, right? Certain things that I use, like
Yes.
tomatoes and peppers, and I don't have a yard. And I always probably tell people, I don't have a yard, but I can grow a lot of things in a container. Again, you go back to the
Yep.
roots, where I'm like, any container with soil and some seed, and we got food, right? And during the pandemic, I'm like, if this shut down, we got to eat something, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
again, going back to nature, going back to like, how would you feed yourself without going to the supermarket and all those things? And then the ways is also like, how do we teach each other? Because sometimes we do know and sometimes we
Mm.
don't know, and we're not surrounded, not all of us are surrounded by like an intergenerational community where you can learn from someone older than you and teaching you like how to cook, but also how to make adjustment. Because sometimes it's like, you don't want to go all the way back with like the butter and all the different things, but you can always make adjustment in terms of really eating in a way where you're like, is this taking care of me? Because like I
Ooh,
said before,
that's so
if I'm
good.
eating the other things, it's like I'm looking for ways to soothe myself. But
Yes.
a mango can soothe me. Let me tell you, a slice of mango can really soothe me. And so you have to think about, how am I taking care of myself, and asking the question when you're eating certain things, is this really nourishing me, or is it doing something else? Am
Yes.
I numbing something? Am I trying to forget
Mm.
something? Am I bored? And I think a lot of us, we eat, we have to really learn what hunger is, because a lot of time when we eat,
Yes.
we're just eating because it's noon, because it's lunchtime, because it's dinner. But are you hungry?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing, where sometimes I'll eat more like to satisfy like my taste, but asking like, by eating this, am I honoring and nourishing myself by eating those things?
That is so good to talk about the honoring and nourishing, Marie. I love that so much. And I saw that Ian Kusila G said, we come from medicine people.
That's
It's
right.
beautiful to learn and reconnect to the remedies and food for our souls. So people are
Mhm.
definitely resonating with what you have to
Yes.
say, Marie. Steph, I want to ask the question to you as well. Let me know if you need me to repeat it.
I feel like, Marie, you covered all the things. The only piece I'll just add, because you got me cracking up around the food is medicine, because you
Yes.
know that's the hot topic right now. Um, so I think you covered most. The only thing I would add around food for me, this is a hard one. Like, and I know
Yeah.
how important it is to think about what you put in your
Mhm.
body, but to proud to say small steps. I made a really good veggie soup based on I did. And I'm not even a soup maker, but I've been committed to that this season just because of, I know the nutrients are important. I recognize how different my body feels on what I put in it. And this one is completely vegetables, like squash and sweet potato. I'm like proud of my soup. I should have took a picture of it, but I'm so seriously, I was in there having a good time. And I think that's the other thing I realized today. Because I feel like I'm always so busy, I'm like, I don't got time to make no soup. I'm like, this was fast. And so I'll be leaning into that and really listening to what you all have to offer up on this question as I'm still early in my journey.
But I love that, Steph, and that's why I wanted to have us have this conversation, because we're all at different stages of our journey. And like you said, you thought like soup, this is going to be too much work. And you're like, actually, this is something simple. And I want people to be encouraged by that, of like, don't go for the super hard, we meal prepping every single meal, because ain't nobody got time for that, sweetie. That's not my main job. I have a life. So it's like, what can we do that's simple? So I'm gonna point the question to you as well, Danielle, if you want to answer it, is how have you incorporated seasonal foods into your diet to enhance your physical health and energy?
So, you're probably going to say, she's always saying this, but I'm a work in progress. I really want to stress that, right? Just because you know better and just are taking a longer time to get to that point, right? So I want to just be fully transparent. Early this year, I got COVID, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so during that time, had to be away from work, isolated. And so I'm on Netflix and I'm binge watching on different shows. So I come across a few films, one of which was called Live to 100.
Mm.
And I'm like, let me see what they have to say. When I looked at that, I was mind blown. There are areas in the world called blue zones where there are people who are living in their hundreds, their 90s, they're active. And what was a common theme amongst all these countries and communities is that people are eating for sustenance, not eating for
Mm-hmm.
comfort. They are moving
Yes.
their body. And it was very motivational for me. And so I became more cognizant of what I was eating and just cutting out as much fast food as possible. Now, don't get me wrong. There are moments I have a relapse, right? But the cravings aren't there like they were before. So it's not me saying, well, let me just pick up some because it's cheap and inexpensive. I don't have to cook when I get home. I don't have to worry about where the food is coming from. It's just thinking about what you're putting into your body, how you're feeling, how does your body feel, what does it look like? And so I encourage those of us who may not think that you have the tools right now. The tools are available. It's about when you're ready to tap into them. But just know there are people who have also been in that journey just like you, and they all had to start from somewhere. So that's where I want to leave with that question.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
good, Daniela. So good. Anybody have
Yeah.
any takeaways they wanted
Yeah,
to
I
share?
saw. I don't know if I saw. The Blue Zone came out, and then I think there's a
Yes.
documentary, and that's the other thing too. As I was thinking in terms of the ability to age well, and I think for me, anytime
Oh,
I
yes.
travel outside the U.S., like recently, I was in Jamaica, and my yoga teacher was 70. This woman was so flexible. I'm like, I'm old. I'm old. Okay, because
Put you
Oh,
to shame.
she keeps saying push it and keep stretching and keep the leg up. I'm like, I cannot keep this leg up. Okay, it's going down. We cannot do this right now. But it was in such a beautiful setting, and she's like, breathe in the ocean, and everything was natural, and it was such a great way to see someone just being.
yes.
And we so used to seeing as you get older, it means your health is gonna deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be moving less. You're gonna be needing aid and so forth. And there are times we're gonna need it, right? Because of we're dealing with a condition or whatever it is. But I see people still moving, still going. They're in their garden, they're outside, they're in the sun, they walk, and I'm just like, this is insane because I feel like I don't have that vitality.
Mm.
And I'm like, what, 30 plus years younger than her? And I'm like, how is she moving this way? You know what I mean? But again, he probably maintained it, but it wasn't a lot. I think it's just the idea of movement. I think we mentioned it early in terms of what does that mean? Is it walking? Is it stretching? Is it dancing? And again, it's natural things that you're doing because culturally, there are times you're moving and you don't think you're exercising,
Yes.
but you're sweating, you're breathing a little harder, your heart is pumping harder, right? And so we may have to redefine what does that mean for us. And again, like everything else, it's going to look different
Mhm.
and it's not going to be what you think is going to be, right? Like I know
Yeah.
Tomesha's doing something, I might be doing something, but it's about you choosing and picking. And I always tell people, Garland just put something that fruits
Yes.
help him reverse his diabetic diagnosis. And that's amazing that fruits
Yes.
heal. But you have to be willing to make those changes. Like you have to be willing to almost like retrain your taste
Yeah.
bud, because
Yeah.
certain things I used to enjoy, and because I've cut them, I don't get the same enjoyment. You know, people talk about guilty pleasures. There's no pleasure. There's zero pleasure when I try to go back. It doesn't taste the same. Like that same thing you were looking for. I'm like, you already retrained your taste bud. I'm like, I don't get it now. I'm like, it's okay. I'll take one bite or one scoop and I'm like, it's all right. I'm not doing this, because now in a different space, my taste bud is so different. And so a lot of things you have to allow your appetite and your taste bud to change and make that transition, because it's not going to be what it is. Like when you're eating fresh things without all the sugar and all the preservative, it's not going to taste the same. And so it's going to take an adjustment. We're like, oh, this is bitter, but it's like, this is it in its natural state. And so it hasn't been safe for like a year. You just pluck it and you're eating it. And so give yourself time to really sort of your mouth and your body and your eyes to get used to it, because sometimes we're eating with our eyes and we're not allowing ourselves to be
Yes.
curious. Right? We almost turn into babies where we just like, we know we don't like it before we taste it. Taste
Yes.
and see, do you like it? And if there was something you didn't like when you were younger, we grown, taste it again and see if it's the same. It changed, you know.
You got me cracking up here, Marie. If you didn't like it when you were younger, like you were 5 when you had that berry, I think you
Seriously,
might like berries today.
you might. We
And you
grown
know
now.
what I think is so important under everything you said is like we also have to train our
Yes.
minds. Some of it is literally a mental shift on how you're viewing some of the things. So yes, all of that resonates.
It did. And I also see what Michelle from the Grief Curator said, interested to know the percentage of depression in those countries as well. I mean, that's a great point. Like, I have never thought about that, Michelle, but that is definitely something I will look up, is to think, how is the mental health for people in those countries that are like taking the
Yeah.
priority? To your point, they're thinking about sustenance, not, which is what we used to think about. We ate for pleasure, not just for simple, I'm just eating for the sake of
Right.
eating. Like, I'm just mindlessly eating to numb and not deal with stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I did promise them, like I said, 7:45 we'd be there. But if anybody wanted to add one more point, because I
The
was going
one
to do
thing
only
I was
one more
gonna
question.
add is that
Yes.
we don't eat in front of the TV. So when I go other places, even when I'm traveling with people,
Yes.
we sit down. Eating is a social thing, right? And so
Yes.
you're not swallowing things, you're not driving and eating, you're not going to the drive-through. We sit down. It doesn't always have to be at a table, but there are people there. We're having conversation. You're not eating for 10 minutes. You're not
Mm-hmm.
warming up in a microwave, right? And so it doesn't mean the rate is low. What I find culturally sometimes is that there might be some quiet issues going on that people may not share openly. But when you think about the longevity and what people are doing on a day to day, the idea that you go out, you get your natural vitamin D, you're talking with people, you're interacting, you're going to the market, you're
Yes.
seeing other people. It's not just your family. I think sometimes we're so closed off with only the people we know, right? Like in this culture,
Mm-hmm.
it's always the two. Like two people can take care of like that whole, two parents, one child, a
Yep.
pet, and maybe one other child or something. Like it's much bigger than that in terms of how engaged are you. And this is like still pre-pandemic. Sometimes we blame the pandemic for the reason we isolated, but we created a very isolating culture. And another space is people gather, right? There's an art to
Yes.
gathering and getting together and meeting people and visiting people and talking that you don't have, it doesn't mean there are zero mental health issues. I think every culture does deal with it, but it's such a silent thing sometimes where it's not openly discussed. And so that doesn't mean you naturally remove it because all these
Mm-hmm.
other things on the surface.
Thank you so much, Marie, for saying that. And I'm going to give y'all one more question. So we already touched a lot upon movement already, and as well as boundaries with our personal and work. So since we just talked about community, I was like, I would love to end with asking you all this question. And Marie, if you wanted to go first, you can again, is what role, if any, and I think community has played some role, but if any, has community played in supporting your wellness?
In terms of community, I mean, I think it's the same for self-care because a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time I try to practice it together. So a lot of the time let's say we share information here. Like I love when I go places where we can do something while we're there, right? Like I've gone to
Mm-hmm.
conferences. There was a TED Talk I went to recently where it's like we did some, some humming like back in the day, and it was very calming. Like there are little things like again you used to doing that we think it has to be a whole situation. Like I'm gonna go here and do this, but the idea of practicing these tools, these self-care tools or ways to like reduce stress when we together, right? Versus we talk about it, they say it, but then we don't get to do it together, right? So whether it's a movement, like when I was traveling, I typically tend to travel in a group, even though it's for business. And so we did the movement together. It was like a group of women. We all did the exercises together. We ate together. Then we learned about like the walking, right? So it's really hard because sometimes you have some condition where you are limited, and they're always like, "Oh, walking would help you," and you're just like, "I'm in pain. I'm not." But any movement, whoever you're dealing with can make adjustment. Not my 7-year-old yoga teacher, but you know, but sometimes it's like do a little bit, because sometimes the longer you stay where you're not moving, I find it harder for me to get up, right? So even though I'm supposed to be resting, but if you laying and sitting and we are so sedentary, right? It becomes harder to move. So even if it's for 10 minutes where you walk, there are days I just walk outside of my building and that's it. That's as far we're gonna go. That's a walk. I just walked out and I can't go any farther. And I think people think they have to do a marathon, a 5K walk. I'm not that person, right? And so if you just walk out and walk to your park, and again, that was another thing a friend did talking about community. She would come over and walk with me because there's a possibility sometimes like my back would just give out and I'm like, you don't want to be in the middle of a park. And I'm like, I can't go back. Right. And so she would walk with me and we would walk together. And so that could be a date as well, where it's like your friend you walk together. I remember Girl Trek. I don't know if they're still pretty active, where we would walk as a group, find somebody who wants to. And sometimes I just walk around the block. That's the walk. Just walk around and I'm back. And there was a day where it was like it looks like it was gonna rain, and we just walk around the building, and that's it. And we're back. So just to get some fresh air, and then asking other people to have that experience, because sometimes again it's like we think movement is the gym. We think we have to go in a place to do it, where again, wherever you are, there's a way for you to move and do some basic things. Now the fire
That's
alarm is
good.
going.
Oh no! Well, I will pass it over to Steph. They're trying to get you to move, literally.
Be safe and make sure there's really not a fire, though.
Yes, please.
Okay. I think community has helped my wellness in so many ways. I want to say, you mentioned this earlier about dance. One of the ways that I really used to maintain just my physical movement was Zumba. So, and I say was just because I'm not as active in the Zumba community as I was before, but Zumba was a community. So it was actually less about the dance and more about the people. And I've met some of my closest friends, new like adulthood friends, because we met on the dance floor. So I think that sort of like movement and community thing is a common theme that you just talked about as well. I think the other communities that support my wellness, particularly right now, is motherhood chats. So there's different. Let me be clear about this, because there's different type of motherhood chats. So I'm talking about the ones that are honest, the ones that I love my kids and this shit sucks today. Those are the motherhood chats I'm in, because there's such a narrative around. I would even say a narrative and almost like professionalism of motherhood that is very, very different from what the day-to-day grunt looks like. So I think super helpful. The other community I would say is sisterhood. And so, fun story. The reason how I met our moderator is I messaged her. I was like, I think you're my cousin because we share the same last name and we were going to a conference. And so I do think like finding, and then she also, public health. However, we just kept talking. I was like, you sure you ain't really my cousin?
I still think we
So,
are related.
so we just decided we're cousins, y'all. But I want to say I think community has been very instrumental, like through movement, through friendship, through sisterhood, even different seasons of life for me, really have sustained me in my wellness. And I think you also, I want to say this is important. So you got to be open to join community.
Yes.
I think vulnerability is something that we've talked a lot about tonight, and just know who you are in that. And I think that's equally as important in the journey.
Ooh, so good, Steph.
And my
So
like
good.
like a cousin.
I know. I still think we are cousins for real, for real. But we're gonna say we cousins to everybody. And Daniela, I'm gonna ask you the same question. What role, if any, has community played in supporting your wellness?
A tremendous role, whether it be family by blood or family by choice.
Mm,
These are people who are part of my circle, who I've met over the years, who are true to me and who know me very well. And they know by the sound of my voice what's going on. They can tell that something is off just by looking at me. And so they have been part of me just being able to just take a look at myself and just realize that what I'm doing is not for me,
Mm,
or they'll be the ones to let me know, okay, how about you try something different and get different results?
mm,
On the self-discovery journey I've been on, I met a group of people who became part of my tribe, right? And as humans, we're looking for belonging.
mm,
That's just natural and part of the process. And so whether it's a community that you are part of at work or at play or in church, it's all about community and how you're
mm-hmm.
able to feel loved and just feel as if you belong. And it's a feeling that is irreplaceable, right? And so community, to answer your question, has played an essential role in my wellness. And I learned from community the importance of giving each other grace, right? That's
Yes.
important.
mhm.
Yes.
And just knowing that I'm a work in progress, what I always say,
That-
right?
Those are the words. Those are your words for the night. Can I add
That is.
one more thing?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, I think sometimes for some of us, we always think we have to go somewhere, and sometimes we have to think of
Mm,
those who are like for mobility reason, or just there's a period where they can't always again go to the gym, which is a great
yeah.
place if you can go there, because that works for a lot of people. And for me, virtual community is still important,
Yes.
or even the hybrid community, right? I was so grateful during the pandemic that some fitness centers still had you can go in, or you can also do some things, by Zoom or some other platform that they have. And so we're lucky in this community. Like I did, one of our Black woman owned fitness is Break Fit Wellness, where we did Zoom or exercises on Sunday on different days where you come in, and they were short, like 30 minutes to be able to move with. And I like being guided. A lot of my activities, you think you're going to be motivated to be like, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. I'm going to go and do all this stuff. But again, if it's scheduled and I know we're meeting at this time, I'm more likely to show up on the Zoom. We do a 30 minutes and we are done until the following week. So even if you do something once, like the dance class is amazing where you just do something different. You can do it again at home, or you can go somewhere else. And I think there's an opportunity to still build community, even if you don't always not the person going to all the different things. And even the idea of dancing without being in a class, you can just turn some music on and just dance for 10 minutes for however long the song is. So that's also another idea of like movement where people might feel like, I don't have the money to pay for a class. I can't, the idea is to say more yes, because we have access to everything we need. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to move whatever you got, whether it's like your one arm, there are days only one leg is
Yes.
working. And so what we're doing is that one leg is going to do whatever needs to be done. If it's the arm that's working, if it's just like the neck, when we on Zoom, you just work that part of your body. But the idea is to move, right?
Yes.
And we mentioned the mind earlier. That's the other thing too. It's like you get your mind going, and the idea that everything is working, right? We're talking both body, mind, spirit, and and the movement is that. Sometimes when people hear exercise, it's like a little scary word. It doesn't mean you're doing anything heavy or anything that require like you have to be, again, superwoman, or to be like some sort of marathon runner to be able to do it. But I think the idea of like being open and trying different things, and for us to share what we're doing like we're doing now, because sometimes you may not think like dance count. It counts.
Yes.
Like there are days, I look at my fit thing and I could do like 5,000 steps
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't go outside because I'm going back and forth. I'm watering plants. I'm doing things. If you do that kind of like restless thing, and I've seen some people where I have some older folks in my building where they would walk up and down the hallway during the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, right? If they can't go outside, if it's snowing. And so you have to really think about, again, use whatever you got. Like it doesn't have to be like on a treadmill or bike or whatever it is. Like they will just walk up and down, and sometimes they walk together. If you're lucky to have a partner, ask somebody to walk with you to be able to do it, but make it like a thing. The way you be like, let's go to the bar, let's go out, let's go walk, let's go,
Let's go walk.
let's walk,
Bring your
let's walk and
own
talk. Let's
shoes.
walk and talk, right? And I'm telling you, you can have some great conversation just walking and talking because you're not thinking of the miles yet, right? But if you by yourself, you know, like, oh my God, I gotta do 30 minutes, it's very different than if it's like four of us walking, we talking, and you're not thinking. The next thing you know, from wherever we at, we're already across, you know, we crossed the bridge or we crossed the river or something. So think about those small things that you can do a little bit at a time. You don't have to jump and do all the things at once. Just one thing that can ease you into that journey.
Thank you so much, Marie. That was the best way to like end this great conversation. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us live. Don't leave yet though, because if you haven't, click the top of this and followed each of these ladies. I don't know what y'all doing because you've been here the whole time. You've loved this conversation. Please follow Marie. Please follow Steph. Please follow Daniela. In all seriousness, because with the exception of like Marie and Steph and I have actually met in person because we all three of us live in New
Okay.
England. Daniela actually lives a little southern from us in Jersey, where I used to
Ooh,
live.
okay.
Jersey stand up.
Still East Coast.
So this is a great example. Yeah, we're still the Northeast, but this is a great example of how you can build community and come together and have these conversations. So if you enjoyed this conversation, let these ladies know in the chat you enjoyed this conversation. Please follow them. That way you can get notified when they go live. You can, and now I'm actually going to give them the opportunity to share any project that they're working on. And I'm going to switch it up, and we're going to go to you first,
Yes,
Daniela.
yes.
All right.
I know.
Right. Can you hear me? Okay, good, good. Okay. So my passion is helping hardworking women get their dream job. And so what I do is I give mock interview sessions. And so that's something I've been working on for as long as I've known, and it's a passion of mine. So if you go to my website, danielafairburn.com, you're able to get more information.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Daniela.
you.
Steph?
I'm resting, y'all. I'm not working right now. I am so hungry.
He's like, I like to rest.
I'm
Yes.
not sure what I want to do when I come back, but I'm into my pause. So more to come.
Thank
Okay,
you so much, Steph.
that's a good
Marie?
project. Project
Yes.
Rest. That's what she's at. Project Rest. I love it.
Which, by the way, she came off of rest to do this with us. So thank you so much, Steph.
Quick
No,
pause.
Marie.
There's so many things going on. I think right now I've added travel as part of my self-care. And so my goal is to plan a retreat where we get to practice self-care together. And so I've been working on that because sometimes we do all the things. I go to retreat, I travel, and luckily again, I make it my business. And so for me to be able to enjoy, but also to encourage others to see that you can take that time. Like you don't need to sort of, again, wait until something happened or a particular time. Like if you choose, like I deserve to retreat, I deserve to rest, I deserve to pause and schedule those time that you have. And a lot, believe me, I was one of those chronic, so many hours I didn't use, right? I would just not take the vacation and work thinking like that was my badge of honor. Now my badge of honor is actually going somewhere multiple times a year on purpose. So
Yes.
if it involved that, but I want to be able, like we were talking about community, for us to choose to invest in that, right?
Yes.
When you go to certain places and retreat, we don't always see each other. And for us to learn that we are worthy of that as well. This is me again, the alarm.
Well, thank you so much, Marie. I know the alarm don't want us to be great, but that is okay because this was a great conversation. I want to say thank you so much to every single one of you that joined us live, participated in the chat, sent your heart, sent your love. I really am grateful for all of you because this is why we came on. And I also want to say thank you to Marie. Thank you to Steph. Thank you for Daniela to saying yes, because they could have been like, no, girl, no. And they said yes to this conversation. And I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you all have a great evening. We are going to make sure that the recording is available. So when you see the recording, make sure to share it with your friends. Be like, listen to this because y'all need to hear it. So thank you to everyone. Have a wonderful evening. And we will all see y'all on the other side resting. Bye, y'all.